Hi guys, welcome back to another video from the channel. This is the video as promised in relation to co-parenting with a narcissist. I want to qualify this by saying that I'm not coming from a point of view that we're all perfect, parents and perfect people. We know that we're perfectly imperfect, I should say. So we will do our best for our kids. We will want the best for them. We won't always get it right, so we have to accept that. But the difference between you and the narcissistic parent is that you genuinely want what's best for your children, whereas the narcissistic parent wants what's best for themselves, even though they will use the vocabulary of wanting what's best for their children. So I would say in life that co-parenting with a toxic parent or someone that has narcissistic personality disorder is one of the hardest things you will ever have to do. It's one of the hardest things to achieve a good outcome from, but I don't believe it's impossible. I do qualify and say that it's really hard. So I am not a psychologist. I am not a child expert by any manner of means, and I have made my own share of mistakes. I have parented and still parent. I had 3 boys. But guys, I've learned an awful lot. So what I'd like to do is share my personal experience with you, give you an opinion on what I've gleaned from many sessions of life coaching with our community and what I've learned after researching the whole thing, and particularly what I know now about narcissism. So we can navigate the area as best we can in a generalized way, because every situation with a narcissistic parent and your children is going to be so different to the next person that comes along. And that's why I would, in this area, really recommend that you get the support you need to navigate this lifetime situation, this big life event of co-parenting with a narcissistic parent, to customize it to your particular experience. Because look guys, we have some narcissists that live in different countries that don't have anything to do with their children or want anything to do with their children. We've other narcissists that dip in and dip out depending on their supply situation. We've other narcissists that want access to their children but don't want any responsibility with their children. And then we've other narcissists that actually want to control the children totally, have the children live with them all the time, and have their children as nearly a primary, main source of supply, and want to live through their children. So advice given in this particular forum is not going to be applicable to each of those different situations, but generalized advice in relation to dealing with a narcissistic parent, I hope will help. So the first thing I'd say is to realize that with a narcissist, they manipulate every individual situation. So every situation where they feel in power or that they have control over you will be used. So this is a particular, if a narcissist is going to, be in your joint children's lives, this is a particularly juicy, if I can describe it like that, juicy situation in relation to supply for them. Because your children obviously are your precious, loved ones, and if a narcissist has control over a vulnerable loved one of yours, or any measure of control, they have huge amount of control over you and your emotions in particular. And remember, narcissists want emotional supply from their victims. So that's why I use the word juicy. Perhaps it's an inappropriate word for a painful situation, but that's the best way I can describe that this would be a fantastic situation for a narcissist to manipulate. The other thing I'll say is there's a difference between if you've just been discarded by a narcissist, they will use the divorce process and the child custody situation to continue to get supply from you. So it's really, really hard if you're navigating your heartbreak and the effect of the narcissistic abusive relationship that you've gotten out of and the damage that that's done to you as a person, and also have to navigate a divorce process or plus a child custody case. So it gets easier. The initial stage is often hugely traumatic, and you really, guys, you really, really need support. You get whatever support you can possibly get if you've just been discarded, particularly if there are children, because this is the most vulnerable time for you to be manipulated by a narcissist, for them to really put you through the ringer, to punish you for, you know, basically letting them down in the relationship. They will see you as really treacherous at this stage. You'll be really painted black, and they will do everything they possibly can to hurt you, and they will use whatever tools they can to hurt you. And divorce is one tool, and your children is a huge tool, obviously, to manipulate you emotionally. So one thing I'd advise, that's the first thing I'd advise, is to get support. The second thing I'd advise is to contact a child psychologist. And this may sound weird, but for yourself, to give you guidance. Explain to them this is the situation, that you're in a situation with a narcissistic, with a person you consider to be a narcissistic parent, and you want to do the best for your children in this situation. Now, even though I don't agree with this, a lot of the courts in a lot of states and countries believe that it's better for children to have some contact with an abusive parent, that it's better for them to have contact than none. I don't agree with this. I think it's terrible, but it's what a lot of people are faced with. It's the reality we're faced with. And on the other hand, it would be difficult, I suppose, for authorities and a government to fully decide if a parent was abusive without a huge lot of documented evidence. Which brings me to the second point. Document everything. Keep a diary of any interactions you have with your co-parent and any effect or things that your child might say after having been with them. Just keep a diary, a daily diary, because at some stage, if that parent is highly abusive, you will need something to back it up. Just coming out with a statement like, and you'll be in an emotional state saying, I can't let the children go to this parent. They were, terribly distraught when they come back. That's only your say-so in a court situation. And, you have a lot of narcissists saying this in court as well, saying that the children were very distressed when they came back from the parent who actually really loves them and cares for them and is healthy. So a court will look for, examples, and if your lawyer can bring up examples on a particular day, this is documented evidence, my client has kept over a long period of time, it'll back up your case and your statement, and it will show that you have used, diligence and mental fortitude in making such a document for the welfare of your child. So that's two things we've covered: getting support and documenting any kind of evidence of abuse or evidence of your child being upset. Now, the next thing to do is to be very aware that the narcissist will use the situation against you. And they will also want to get you into a state where you emotionally react and appear unstable. And if a child psychologist talks to the children about, do you ever see mummy or daddy, being upset or shouting or, whatever, what is it like to live with mummy or daddy? If you've been, it's a terrible thing, guys, to hold on to yourself, but in front of the children in particular, don't let the narcissist upset you. And this will be the hardest thing you've ever had to do, because they will pull your strings in relation to your child. They will say things to you like, you're crazy, you really need to do this. You're not doing this properly for our child. Our child is suffering because of you. You're unstable and you need treatment, and you're not a good parent, and the children shouldn't be allowed near you. All these dreadful things they will say in projecting onto you their issues. They will also, unfortunately, try to, in some instances now, it doesn't always happen like this. This is the instances when the narcissist is very still wanting to control you through your children and wanting maybe full custody of the children to, 1, punish you, and 2, get supply. This is the worst case scenario. It doesn't always pan out like this. You can often get away from the narcissist by putting distance between you and them. There's various tactics you can use to lessen the amount of access they have to your children. But this is when I'm talking about the full-on, the full-on confrontation with the narcissist who's battling you for access or custody of your children. So be aware that this person is just playing a game. They're playing a game that they're actually enjoying. They're going to turn up late for, picking the children up or leaving the children back. They're going to cancel arrangements at the last minute. They're going to look for what triggers you emotionally. So whatever way they can get to you best and see you reacting best, they will use that particular manipulation over and over again. It's like in any situation with the narcissist. Whatever you emotionally react best to, get upset about, maybe go crazy about, start shouting at them about, whatever you lose it over, they'll push at that wound, and they'll keep pushing at that wound, because that's the easiest way, the least amount of energy expended to get the most amount of emotional supply from you and to empower them the most. So what we have to try and do in these situations is to, even if you're distraught, you're at boiling point, you can't believe they've done something, you have to practice grey rock. You have to practice no emotional response. And if you find, oh my God, Paula, he or she triggers me to such an extent, I just lose it. I'm tired. I've been up all night. I'm trying to keep 2 jobs and look after the kids. I'm in a dreadful state emotionally. I can't do it. Most parents, if at this point when they're about to be triggered, think, if I get triggered and emotionally react, it's going to negatively affect my kids. It's the people that are going to suffer the most are my kids, because the narcissist will continue to turn up late, continue to say miss appointments, continue to do whatever abuse they're doing to the kids that gets you crazy, that gets you to emotionally react. So it's really, really important that you negate their game. You have the power to dim the narcissism in co-parenting with a narcissist, if that makes sense. By you really adhering to the principle of not reacting to the triggers that the narcissist uses through your joint children to get you to react crazily. If you can keep that on a flat line where you give the no reaction, the yes or the no, and if they turn up late, or they, whatever situation they're going to use to push you to the brink. What you do is just respond with saying noted. If they're saying we're turning up late, or they don't let you know at all, you send them a text and say, it's now 4:30. I know the kids were due back at 3:30. Can you give me an update on the situation? You don't go in and say, you haven't had the kids back at 4, it's an hour late, and what the hell is going on, and you bastard, or you bitch, and I need to go out. And you don't do that. That's exactly what they want you to do. You send a one-line note noting that they're not there at a certain time and asking for an update. And this is your documented evidence that whatever you write, know that will be read out or could be read out in a court situation. That's what you want to practice. A huge amount of calmness, a huge amount of understanding that the way you react can, 1, negate the narcissism, and 2, will have a direct effect on your children. It's the hardest thing you'll have to do in your life. It requires the most discipline, guys. It requires the most maturity. It requires the most understanding of the narcissistic personality disorder. And it requires the most amount of love and strength from you, which I know you have within yourself to do. Once the narcissist isn't getting the supply that they thought, they were sure they would get. I mean, they're not going to be able to believe the fact that they're not getting the value out of you at this stage after discarding you, and particularly in this situation where they would have thought they could drive you crazy. They're going to feel very disempowered. They're going to change tactics a few times. I mean, if one doesn't work, they're going to try and use other tactics. They're never going to give you an easy time over the children. It could ease out like in a year or two's time, and I hope that's not too much or triggering to hear for anyone. You have to be prepared for the long road with this, even if they get distracted with their new supply and they leave off on you in relation to the kids. You have to be prepared for the long road with it. And once you kind of can accept that and know that this is going to be one of the biggest challenges of your life, but a challenge that you can, with the right approach, really succeed in achieving the outcome that you desire, and not have everything manipulated and driven forward on the narcissist's terms. You can go to court intermittently if necessary. You can produce your documentation. You can request psychology reports on the children, and you can ask and request a psychological assessment of the other parent. There are tools you can use to minimize the damage or effect that the interaction with the narcissistic parent will have on your joint children. Answer questions calmly, obviously, with the kids. Don't, hard as it is, don't critique the other parent in front of them. I would suggest just saying that different people have different ways of doing things, and this is mummy's or daddy's way of doing things. And, how do you feel about that? Do you feel okay, with this? And you have to kind of talk to your child and just explain that people are different, and, other people's ways might be right or might be wrong. But at some stage, the child will be able to make their own mind up about that. And it's all about learning about life and seeing, what works for your child. So as a child psychologist will help with that greatly. But what you don't want to do is be downing the other parent, because your child will obviously go back to the other parent, and that's actually supply for your ex-narcissist. And they will use that against you with any information your child will share between the two of you. So guys, I don't know if there's anything that I've left out in relation to that, other than you and your influence, and hopefully your friends and family influence, or if your children have older siblings, or extended family will be able to show your child an important way of life, like your belief in how to live life with empathy, etc. And they will come to a stage where they have that in them. That's going to be in them. What they see from you is going to be hugely significant, and they need to see an opposing view to that of the narcissist to give them balance. And at a later stage in their adult life, we would hope that they would choose empathy, having learnt it at least from one source. So guys, if there's any questions on this that you have, please leave them in the comments. If you feel like we should do another video in this area, because it is crucial. It's a hugely concerning element of narcissistic abuse, having children with a narcissist. And just before I go, there's one last tip I would give, and I actually saw this working. It was used by one narcissist on another narcissist in a co-parenting situation. And the narcissist that had custody of the children would always praise the other narcissistic parent for always paying maintenance on time and saying, you know, you always do that, you never let me down, you know, you're a great parent in that respect. And that praising the narcissist when they did the right thing seemed to actually have a positive effect, because I saw that narcissist always. Now there's a bit of extra information there that I you know, that may have influenced the fact that the narcissist always paid the maintenance on time, because the narcissist wanted access to the kids and had gone through a different experience where with another set of children where they were denied access because they didn't maintain the maintenance payments. But at the same time, I did see that praise and admiration for the narcissist working. So I know you will want the best for your kids. So the grey rock method, obviously the huge amount of non-emotional reaction, and also if you can bring yourself, for your children's sake, to praise your narcissistic ex at some stage down the road. I mean, this would be very hard to do at the beginning, but, you know, praise them and reinforce the praise for anything that they do that's good with the kids. Look, it's an option. I'm not saying to do it, but it's an option. I've seen it working. So that's about all I have on that at the moment. As I say, if there's any further detail that you would like discussed or have questions to ask about, please leave a comment or contact me via email at narcscon@gmail.com. Thanks, guys. Have a very good day, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.